The distress call came at 3 in the morning, ship time. Commander Lisa Grant was sleeping in her quarters aboard the research vessel Horizon's Edge when the alarm pulled her awake. She was on the bridge within 2 minutes, her hair still messy and her uniform half-fastened. "What do we have?" she asked, dropping into her command chair. "Danny Ortiz." Her communications officer looked pale in the blue light of his screens. "It's coming from a Thalaxian mining colony, ma'am. About 6 light-years from our position. They're saying something is wrong with their people. Something is changing them." Lisa frowned. The Thalaxians were a reptilian species, proud and strong. Their miners were known across the galaxy as the toughest workers alive. Whatever could scare them enough to send a distress call had to be serious. "Play the message," she ordered. The bridge speakers crackled to life. A Thalaxian voice filled the room, high and afraid. "This is Colony Vex 12, calling any ships in range. We need help. 3 days ago, some of our workers found an old research station orbiting Vera 7. They brought back samples. Now they are sick. Their bodies they are becoming something else. Their scales are melting together. Their eyes are changing color. Please, we need medical assistance. We need someone to tell us what is happening." The message repeated twice more before cutting off. Lisa looked at her chief medical officer. Dr. Kevin Moore. He was a thin man with gray hair and tired eyes, but his mind was sharper than anyone else on the ship. "What do you think?" Kevin shook his head slowly. "Vera 7 is a dead world. The Kathrani civilization used to live there, but they went extinct about 10,000 years ago. Nobody really knows why." He paused. "But there are stories. Old stories about weapons they were developing before they disappeared. Biological weapons. You think the miners found something like that?" "I think we need to be very careful." Lisa made her decision quickly. "Set course for Colony Vex 12. Full speed. But nobody leaves this ship without full protective gear. Nobody touches anything we haven't scanned first." The journey took 18 hours. When they arrived, they found a colony in chaos. The Thalaxian workers who had visited the ancient research station were unrecognizable. Their bodies had twisted and changed in horrible ways. Some had extra limbs growing from their backs. Others had lost the ability to speak as their mouths fused shut. A few had simply stopped moving, their minds broken by the transformation. Kevin worked around the clock, taking samples and running tests. What he found made his blood run cold. "It's a virus," he told Lisa in his lab, his voice barely above a whisper. "But it's not like any virus I've ever seen. It doesn't just make you sick. It rewrites your genetic code. It forces your body to mutate, to change into something else. And it spreads through the air, through touch, through everything." Lisa felt her stomach drop. "Can you cure it?" "I don't know. I don't even understand how it works yet." Kevin pulled up a display showing the virus structure. It was beautiful in a terrible way, like a crystal made of death. The Kathrani built this thing. They engineered it to destroy their enemies, but I think it destroyed them instead. Over the next few weeks, reports began flooding in from across the galaxy. The virus was spreading faster than anyone could track. It jumped from the Thalaxian colony to a nearby trading post. From there, it reached a dozen different species. The Alari were hit next. They were beings made of light and energy, graceful and ancient. The virus destabilized their forms, causing them to flicker and fade like dying stars. Thousands of them simply ceased to exist, their energy scattering into the void. The Viraxi, an insectoid species with hive minds, suffered a different fate. The virus didn't kill them directly. Instead, it shattered the mental connections between individuals. Colonies that had worked together for centuries suddenly found themselves alone in their own heads, isolated and confused. Many went mad from the sudden silence. Lisa watched the reports pile up on her desk. 60 billion dead across all affected worlds. That number grew every day. The Galactic Council called an emergency meeting. Lisa attended as an observer, watching representatives from 47 species argue about what to do. Most of them wore protective suits. Some appeared only as holograms because they were too sick to travel. A Thaloxian diplomat named Krethphos spoke first. His scales had changed color from green to a sickly gray, a sign that he had survived infection but not without cost. "This virus does not discriminate," he said. "It has attacked every species it has touched. Every single one. We must focus our resources on finding a cure." Analory. Representative flickered in agreement. "We have lost so many. If we do not work together, we will lose more." But then the conversation turned to humanity. "The virus is spreading toward human space," announced a Vraxi delegate. "Current projections suggest it will reach Earth within 3 weeks." Silence fell over the chamber. Everyone knew what that meant. Humanity was a young species by galactic standards. They had only been traveling between stars for a few hundred years. Their population had grown to almost 40 billion, spread across Earth in dozens of colonies. They didn't have the ships or the resources to evacuate everyone. An older Thaloxian, scientist named Velsora, spoke up. "The virus has mutated every species it has touched. There is no reason to believe humans will be any different. We should prepare to help the survivors if there are any." Lisa felt anger rising in her chest, but she kept her face calm. "And if we don't survive? If the virus wipes us out entirely?" Velsora looked at her with something that might have been pity. "Then we will remember you, as we remember all the species the galaxy has lost." After the meeting, Lisa returned to her ship. She sat alone in her quarters, staring at a photograph of her 2 daughters. Emma was 12. Sophie was 9. They were on Earth, in a small house near the ocean that Lisa's parents had built 50 years ago. She thought about calling them. But what would she say? That something was coming that nobody could stop? That she might never see them again? Her door chimed. Danny Ortiz was standing outside, looking nervous. "Ma'am, we just received orders from Earth Central Command. They want us to meet a fleet at Kepler Station." "What for?" Danny hesitated. "They're planning something. An experiment. They want to expose human volunteers to the virus. They want to see what happens to us before the virus reaches our colonies." Lisa stared at him for a long moment. Then she stood up and straightened her uniform. "Set course for Kepler Station," she said. Maximum speed, whatever was coming. Humanity would face it head-on. They had no other choice. Kepler Station floated in the darkness between stars, far from any sun or planet. It was a massive ring of metal and glass, built decades ago as a trading hub for a dozen different species. Now it was empty except for scientists, soldiers, 47 people who had volunteered to die. Dr. Patricia Walsh stood in the main laboratory, reviewing files on her tablet. She was 62 years old, with white hair and steady hands. She had spent her entire life studying how alien bodies worked. She had won awards, published papers, and trained hundreds of students. None of that had prepared her for this moment. "They're ready," said her assistant, a young geneticist named Ryan Cho. He was nervous. Patricia could see it in the way he kept checking and rechecking his equipment. "Are you ready?" She asked him. Ryan let out a long breath. "No, but I don't think I'll ever be ready for something like this." Patricia understood. What they were about to do felt wrong, even though it was necessary. They were going to deliberately infect healthy people with a virus that had killed billions. Some of these volunteers would probably die. But if even one of them survived, if humanity showed any resistance at all, it could change everything. The first volunteer entered the isolation chamber. His name was Gregory Palmer, and he was 53 years old. He had been a Marine for 20 years before retiring to Mars. Now he worked as a security consultant, helping colonies protect themselves from pirates and raiders. Patricia spoke to him through an intercom. "Mr. Palmer, you understand what we're about to do? You can still change your mind." Gregory smiled, a tired but genuine expression. "Doc, I've got 2 grandchildren on Mars. Twin girls, 5 years old. If this virus hits our colonies, they won't stand a chance. If there's anything I can do to help, anything at all, I'm going to do it." Patricia nodded. "We'll monitor you constantly. If anything goes wrong, we'll do everything we can to help." "I know you will." Ryan prepared the injection. His hands were shaking slightly, but his movements were precise. The syringe contained a carefully measured dose of the Kathrani virus, enough to cause infection, but hopefully not enough to kill immediately. Gregory rolled up his sleeve. Let's get this over with. The needle went in. The virus entered his bloodstream. And then everyone waited. For the first 6 hours, nothing happened. Gregory sat in his isolation chamber, reading a book on his tablet and occasionally chatting with the medical team through the intercom. His vital signs stayed normal. His blood samples showed the virus spreading through his body, but it didn't seem to be doing anything. Then, at hour 7, the fever started. Gregory's temperature shot up from normal to dangerous levels in less than 20 minutes. His heart rate became irregular. Sweat poured down his face as he gripped the sides of his bed. It's starting, Ryan whispered, watching the monitors. Patricia leaned forward, her eyes fixed on the genetic analysis screen. This was the moment when every other species had begun to mutate. The virus would start rewriting DNA, forcing random changes that twisted bodies into new and horrible shapes. Gregory screamed. His body shook violently, and for a terrible moment, Patricia thought they were going to watch him die. But then something unexpected happened. The genetic display showed Gregory's cells fighting back. His immune system was responding to the virus in ways Patricia had never seen before. White blood cells multiplied, attacked the virus, died, and then multiplied again in different forms. It was like watching evolution happen in fast forward. His body is adapting, Ryan said, his voice filled with wonder. Look at this. Every time the virus tries to change his DNA, his cells find a way to stop it. They're learning from the attack. The battle inside Gregory's body lasted for 3 days. He drifted in and out of consciousness, sometimes lucid and sometimes lost in fever dreams. Patricia and her team watched every moment, recording every detail. On the morning of the 4th day, Gregory's fever broke. His vital signs stabilized. His genetic markers returned to normal human patterns. Patricia entered the isolation chamber wearing full protective gear. Gregory was sitting up in bed, looking exhausted but alert. How do you feel? She asked. Gregory thought about it. Hungry. Really hungry. Like I haven't eaten in a week. He paused, frowning slightly. And there's something else. I can still feel the virus inside me, but it's different now. It's quiet, like it's sleeping. Patricia ran more tests. What she found amazed her. Gregory's DNA had changed, but not in the destructive way the virus caused in other species. Instead, his body had integrated parts of the virus into itself. His cells now regenerated faster than normal. His neural connections had become more efficient. His immune system could now fight off diseases it had never encountered before. You didn't just survive, Patricia told him. You adapted. Your body turned the virus into an upgrade. Over the next 2 weeks, the remaining volunteers went through the same process. The results varied from person to person. Some had mild reactions. Others nearly died. 2 volunteers had to be placed in stasis when their bodies couldn't handle the stress, but 45 out of 47 survived. And all of them came out changed. One woman, a pilot named Christina Blake, emerged with dramatically improved reflexes and vision. She could now track objects moving at speeds that would have been invisible to her before. A teacher named Marcus Webb found that his memory had become nearly perfect. He could recall every conversation, every page of every book, every moment of his life with crystal clarity. A young engineer named Derek Santos discovered that his body now healed from injuries in hours instead of days. A cut on his hand that would normally take a week to heal closed up overnight. Patricia compiled all the data and presented to the Emergency Council. She stood before representatives of 47 species and told them something that nobody had expected to hear. Humans don't just resist the Kathrani virus, she said. We adapt to it. Our immune systems are uniquely flexible. They can learn from the virus instead of being destroyed by it. We don't know why this is true for humans and not for other species. It might be an accident of evolution. It might be something in our genetic history. But the fact remains, we survive. The chamber was silent for a long moment. Then the questions started. How could this be possible? Could human genetics be used to help other species? Was humanity now immune to the virus entirely? Patricia answered as best she could, but the truth was that she didn't understand everything yet. The virus was complex, and human biology was full of mysteries. All she knew for certain was that humanity had been given a gift. What they would do with that gift remained to be seen. Back on Kepler Station, Gregory Palmer finished his recovery and prepared to return home to Mars. Before he left, he stopped by Patricia's office. "Thank you," he said simply. Patricia shook her head. "You're the one who volunteered. You took the risk." "Yeah, but you gave me a chance to do something that mattered." Gregory smiled. "My granddaughters are going to grow up in a world where humans aren't afraid of this virus. That's worth everything." After he left, Patricia sat alone in her office, staring at the data on her screens. Somewhere out there, the virus was still spreading, still killing. But for the first time since the outbreak began, she felt something she had almost forgotten. Hope. The virus reached Earth on a cold morning in November. It came on a cargo ship that had passed through infected space without knowing it. By the time the ship landed at the New York spaceport, half the crew was already showing symptoms. Within a week, the virus had spread to every major city on the planet. The world held its breath in hospitals across Earth and its colonies. Doctors watched their patients with fear and hope mixed together. They had seen the reports from Kepler Station. They knew that humans could survive the virus. But knowing something in theory and watching it happen to real people were very different things. Amy Torres was a nurse at the new Shanghai Medical Center on Mars. She had been working there for 8 years. Treating everything from broken bones to radiation sickness, nothing had prepared her for what she saw during the outbreak. Her first patient was a young man named Ben, barely 20 years old. He had come to Mars 3 months ago to work in the mining industry. Now he was lying in a hospital bed, shaking with fever, his skin burning to the touch. "Am I going to die?" he asked, his voice weak and scared. Amy held his hand. "We don't think so. The research says humans can fight this. Your body is going to feel terrible for a few days, but you should come through it. What if I don't? Then I'll be here with you the whole time. You won't be alone." Ben closed his eyes. His fever had been climbing for 12 hours. According to the data from Kepler Station, the worst part was about to begin. Amy stayed with him through the night. She watched his temperature spike and his heart rate become irregular. She heard him cry out as his body fought the invisible enemy inside him. 3 times she thought she was going to lose him. But on the 3rd day, his fever broke. Ben woke up slowly, blinking in the soft light of the hospital room. His face was pale and thin, but his eyes were clear. When he saw Amy sitting beside his bed, he managed a weak smile. "I made it," he asked. "You made it?" Later, the doctors ran tests on Ben and found that his body had changed. His reflexes were faster. His immune system was stronger. The virus had tried to destroy him, and instead, his biology had stolen its secrets. Stories like Ben's repeated across human space. Billions of people got sick. The hospitals overflowed. Emergency shelters were set up in schools and stadiums and anywhere else that had space. Medical workers pushed themselves past exhaustion, working 18 or 20-hour shifts to care for the endless stream of patients. The death rate was terrible. 0.3% of everyone infected did not survive. That might sound like a small number, but when billions of people were sick, it meant millions of deaths. Families lost parents and children and grandparents. Communities held mass funerals that went on for days, but humanity survived. Dr. Henry Liu, the director of the new Shanghai Medical Center, called a meeting of his senior staff 2 months after the outbreak began. They gathered in a conference room, all of them exhausted, but still standing. "We've treated over 50,000 patients at this facility alone," Henry said. "We lost 162. That's a survival rate of over 99%. He paused, letting the number sink in. The Thalaxians lost 40% of their population. The Elori lost 60. We should have been wiped out. Instead, we're still here." Amy spoke up. "What happens now? To the survivors, I mean?" That's the interesting part. Henry pulled up some charts on the wall display. Everyone who recovered from the virus came out changed, enhanced, better than before. Some people have improved senses. Others have faster thinking. A few have abilities we don't even have names for yet. He showed them a video of a patient who could now perceive electromagnetic fields, seeing radio waves and electrical currents as colors floating in the air. Another video showed a woman whose body temperature had become completely stable, never rising or falling regardless of the environment. "We're not the same species we were 6 months ago," Henry said quietly. "The virus changed us. The question is, what we do with these changes." The answer to that question depended on who you asked. Some humans wanted to help the galaxy heal. They remembered that other species had offered shelter and support when humanity faced extinction. They wanted to repay that kindness by sharing their knowledge and working alongside alien scientists to find treatments. Admiral Lisa Grant, now commanding the Human Emergency Response Fleet, was one of these people. She spent her days traveling between star systems, bringing medical supplies and research teams to species that had been devastated by the virus. On one mission, she visited a Vroxy colony that had been hit especially hard. The insectoid species had lost their hive mind connection, leaving each individual alone and confused. Many had simply stopped eating, unable to function without the mental link to their community. Lisa walked through the colony with a Vroxy guide Nam, Ed Klixinger, one of the few who had managed to adapt to solitary existence before the virus. "We were one," Klixinger explained, her voice clicking and buzzing in patterns that Lisa's translator struggled to interpret. Every thought was shared. Every feeling was felt by all. Now we are trapped in our own heads. It is like being blind and deaf at the same time. Our scientists think they might be able to help, Lisa said. Human neural networks adapted to the virus in unique ways. Some of our enhanced people have developed abilities that might translate into restoring your connections. Klicksinger's many eyes focused on Lisa. Why would you help us? Your species is strong now. We are weak. In nature, the strong do not help the weak. Lisa thought about that for a moment. My grandmother used to say that the measure of a person isn't how they treat people who can help them. It's how they treat people who can't. She shrugged. I think the same thing applies to species. But not everyone shared Lisa's view. On Earth, on Mars, on colonies scattered across human space, a different movement was growing. People who saw humanity's survival not as luck, but as proof of their superiority. People who believed that the virus had revealed a fundamental truth. Humans were better than other species. They called themselves Ascension. Victor Santos, a factory worker who had emerged from the virus with superhuman strength, became one of their most vocal leaders. He gave speeches in public squares, broadcast messages across information networks, and gathered followers by the thousands. We spent centuries playing catch-up, Victor declared to a crowd in New Chicago. Always behind the older species, always weaker, always smaller. Now we've been given a gift. The universe itself has chosen us to survive. Why should we feel guilty about that? Why should we apologize for being better? The crowd cheered. Amy Torres watched one of Victor's speeches on her tablet during a break at the hospital. Her friend Kevin, another nurse, sat beside her. He's not wrong about everything, Kevin said quietly. We did survive. We are enhanced now. That doesn't make us better than everyone else, Amy argued. It just makes us lucky. Lucky that our biology happened to be the right shape to fight this particular virus. Tell that to the families who lost people. Tell them it was just luck. Amy didn't have an answer for that. The truth was that humanity was divided. Some wanted to use their gifts to help others. Some wanted to use them to dominate. And some, caught in the middle, didn't know what to believe. The galaxy was changing, and humanity was changing faster than anyone had expected. Where that change would lead, nobody could say for certain. But one thing was clear. The virus had been a test. Humanity had passed it. Now came the harder question. What kind of species did they want to become? The attack on Haven 3 happened at sunset. Haven-3 was a small colony world, home to about 200,000 humans and a small community of Thaloxian traders who had lived there peacefully for 30 years. The Thaloxians ran a market in the center of town, selling goods from across the galaxy. They were known for fair prices and honest dealing. On the evening of the attack, a group of 15 humans wearing masks surrounded the market. They carried weapons, simple clubs and knives, but their real advantage was their enhanced bodies. The virus had made them faster and stronger than any normal human. Their leader was a man named Craig Bishop. He had been a delivery driver before the virus. After recovering, he discovered that his strength had tripled. He could lift cars with his bare hands, and he had come to believe that this power meant something. "Aliens out," Craig shouted, swinging his club at a Thaloxian merchant. "This is human space now." The attack lasted only 10 minutes, but when it was over, 3 Thaloxians were dead, and 7 more were badly injured. The market was destroyed. The human authorities arrived too late to stop anything. Craig and his followers escaped into the night. They left behind a message painted on the wall: Ascension. News of the attack spread across the galaxy within hours. The Thaloxian government demanded justice. The Galactic Council called an emergency session. And Admiral Lisa Grant found herself standing in front of a camera, preparing to address billions of people. She had written and rewritten her speech a dozen times. Every version felt wrong. How do you apologize for murder? How do you explain that the monsters who did this don't represent everyone? In the end, she threw away her prepared remarks and spoke from the heart.
"What happened on Haven 3 was murder," she said, her voice hard and steady.
It was cowardice. It was everything that humanity should not be. The people who did this claim to represent our species. They don't. Represent fear and hate and the worst parts of ourselves. She paused, gathering her thoughts. We survived the virus because our biology allowed us to adapt. That's not something we earned. That's not a sign that we're better than anyone else. It's an accident of evolution. It's luck, nothing more. Her hands were shaking slightly, but she kept her voice calm. 18 months ago, when the virus was spreading toward human space, 47 species offered us help. They offered shelter, resources, and comfort, even though they were suffering themselves. They didn't have to do that. They chose to, because that's what civilized beings do for each other. Now, we have a chance to return that kindness, to help rebuild what was broken, to prove that humanity deserves the gifts we've been given. Lisa looked directly into the camera. I'm asking every human who can hear this, choose to be worthy of our survival. Choose compassion over cruelty. Choose cooperation over conquest. Choose to be the species we should be, not the species some want us to become. The speech was broadcast across every human world and transmitted to every alien government that wanted to hear it. Reactions were mixed. Some people praised Lisa for her courage. Others accused her of being weak, apologizing when humanity had nothing to apologize for. Victor Santos responded the same day, broadcasting his own message. Admiral Grant wants us to feel guilty, he said, his enhanced voice carrying easily across the crowded plaza where he spoke. She wants us to bow down to aliens who would have watched us die without lifting a finger to help. She forgets that before we survived the virus, we were nothing to them. A young species. A small species. Now we're the strongest civilization in the galaxy, and she wants us to pretend that doesn't matter. He raised his fist. I say it does matter. I say we've been given a gift, and we shouldn't waste it apologizing to people who see us as threats now that we're no longer easy to ignore. The crowd cheered behind closed doors. The situation was even more complicated. The Thaloxian government wasn't satisfied with Lisa's speech. They wanted reparations. They wanted the attackers brought to justice. They wanted guarantees that nothing like Haven 3 would happen again. Earth's government tried to negotiate, but the talks went badly. The humans refused to pay reparations, arguing that the attack was committed by criminals who didn't represent their species. The Thaloxians saw this as an excuse to avoid responsibility. Trade restrictions followed. The Thaloxians stopped selling certain technologies to human colonies. Other species, uncertain whose side to take, began stepping back from their agreements with humanity. Lisa watched the diplomatic situation collapse from her flagship. She spent long nights reading reports and attending meetings that went nowhere. "They're scared of us," said Danny Ortiz during one late briefing. He had been her executive officer for 2 years now, and he had learned to speak honestly with her. "Can you blame them? A year ago, we were dying. Now we're enhanced, and some of us are attacking them." "I know why they're scared," Lisa replied. "What I don't know is how to fix it. We can't undo what happened on Haven 3. We can't force people to trust us again. Maybe we need to give them a reason to trust us. Something bigger than words." Lisa considered that. "What did you have in mind?" Before Danny could answer, an alarm sounded throughout the ship. Lisa was on her feet immediately, heading for the bridge. "Report," she ordered as she arrived, her tactical officer. A young woman named Rosa Mendez was staring at her screens with wide eyes. "Ma'am, we're receiving reports from multiple sources. The Ascension movement is organizing across all human colonies. They're not just making speeches anymore. They're building something." "Building what?" Rosa pulled up a display showing data from intelligence services, weapons stockpiles, training camps, communication networks. "It looks like they're preparing for more than just attacks on aliens." She swallowed. "Some of their messages suggest they're planning to move against human governments that don't support them." Lisa felt cold. "They're planning a civil war." "It looks that way, ma'am." Danny stood beside Lisa, both of them staring at the display. "How long before they're ready to move?" "Unknown. Could be weeks. Could be months." Lisa closed her eyes for a moment, thinking about what this meant. Humanity had survived the virus. Humanity had emerged stronger than ever before. And now, humanity was turning on itself. "Contact Earth Central Command," she said finally. "Tell them what we've found. And get me a line to the Galactic Council. If the Ascension movement is serious about starting a war, the other species need to know. They need to decide whether they still see us as allies or as enemies." "And what do we do in the meantime?" Danny asked. Lisa looked at the stars through the bridge window. Out there, people she had sworn to protect, were preparing to destroy everything humanity had built. "We watch," she said. "We wait. And we hope that when the moment comes, we can make the right choice." The galaxy was holding its breath again. But this time the threat didn't come from a virus or an ancient weapon. This time, the threat came from within. The Thalaxian fleet appeared without warning. 300. Warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the New Providence system. They arranged themselves in a battle formation around the colony world. Their weapons powered up and ready. Admiral Lisa Grant received the news while she was eating breakfast in her quarters aboard the Constellation. She abandoned her food and ran for the bridge, her heart pounding. "Status report," she demanded as she burst through the door. Rosa Mendez was already at her station. Her face pale, but focused. 300 Thalaxian warships, ma'am. They're holding position around New Providence. No firing yet, but their weapons are locked on the planet. How many people are down there? About 800,000. Mostly scientists and their families. New Providence is a research colony. Rosa paused. Dr. Patricia Walsh is stationed there. She's been leading the ongoing virus research. Lisa felt her stomach drop. Patricia was the person who had made human survival possible. If anything happened to her, or to the research she was doing, it would be a disaster for everyone. What do the Thalaxians want? They're broadcasting now, ma'am. The screen flickered, and a Thalaxian face appeared. Lisa recognized him. Admiral Krethvos, a military commander who had survived the virus but been badly marked by it. His scales had changed from healthy green to a mottled gray, and one of his eyes was clouded white. "Humans of New Providence," Krethvos said, his voice cold and formal. "The Thalaxian Empire has determined that your species poses a threat to galactic stability. Your uncontrolled enhancements, your violent movements, and your refusal to share the secrets of your survival have made it clear that you cannot be trusted." Letting his words sink in. "We are offering you a choice. Surrender all research data related to human virus adaptation. Allow our scientists to study your enhanced population, Submit to oversight and control by a Galactic Council Commission. His remaining good eyes seemed to focus directly through the screen. Or we will destroy your colony and take what we need from the ashes. The transmission ended. Lisa stood frozen for a moment, her mind racing through possibilities. She had 100 ships under her command. The Thaloxians had 300. Even with enhanced human crews, those were terrible odds. How long until our fleet can reach New Providence? She asked. Danny checked his screens. For hours at maximum speed. Get every ship we have moving. Lisa turned to her communications officer. Open a channel to Admiral Krethvoss. I want to talk to him, ma'am. Danny looked surprised. You're going to negotiate with someone who just threatened to destroy a colony? I'm going to try. Lisa straightened her uniform. Because the alternative is a war that nobody wins. The communication took a few minutes to establish. When Krethvoss appeared on screen again, Lisa made herself stand tall and speak calmly. Admiral, I'm Lisa Grant, commander of the Human Emergency Response Fleet. I've heard your terms. I'm asking you to reconsider them. Krethvoss tilted his head. On what basis? On the basis that what you're doing will make everything worse? You destroy New Providence, you kill hundreds of thousands of innocent people, and what do you gain? You make humanity your enemy. You prove to the Ascension movement that they were right about aliens all along. You start a war that will kill billions more. You started the war when your people attacked our citizens on Haven 3. Those weren't our people. Those were criminals and fanatics who don't represent humanity any more than a single murderer represents your entire species. Lisa took a breath. I know you're afraid of us. I know we've changed in ways that nobody expected. But fear isn't a good reason to commit genocide. Krethvoss was silent for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was slightly less harsh. Your words are reasonable, Admiral. But words are cheap. Your species promised peace and cooperation, and then some of you murdered my people. Why should I believe anything you say now? Lisa didn't have an answer for that. She opened her mouth to try anyway, but before she could speak, a new transmission cut through all channels. This is Dr. Patricia Walsh. Speaking on behalf of the New Providence Scientific Consortium. Lisa's eyes went wide. She hadn't authorized any communication from the surface, Patricia continued, her voice calm and steady. We are transmitting all of our research data on human virus adaptation. Every genetic sequence, every immune response pattern, every treatment protocol we've developed. The transmission is going out now, to every receiver in range. The Thaloxians, the Aleri, the Varaxi, everyone. This information belongs to the galaxy, not just to humanity. Krethvoss looked startled. On screens throughout the bridge, Lisa could see data streams pouring outward from New Providence, broadcasting humanity's most closely guarded secrets to anyone who could receive them. This is what you wanted, Patricia said. The secrets of our survival, we're giving them to you freely. Not because you threatened us, but because we should have shared them from the beginning. The virus didn't care about species boundaries. Why should our compassion? The bridge was silent. Everyone was watching the screens. Watching the data flow outward like ripples spreading across water, Lisa finally found her voice. Patricia, do you understand what you've done? That research was classified. There will be consequences. I know. Patricia's voice didn't waver, and I'm willing to accept those consequences. But I wasn't willing to watch people die just so humanity could hold on to power it didn't earn. Krethvoss had been listening. Now he spoke again, his tone completely changed. Dr. Walsh, this data you're sending, is it complete? Everything we have. Every discovery, every breakthrough, every failure, all of it. For a long moment, nobody moved. The Thaloxian fleet held position. The human ships continued racing toward the system, and Patricia Walsh sat in her laboratory on New Providence, waiting to see if her gamble would pay off. Then, slowly, the Thaloxian ships began to withdraw. Krebs sent one final message before his fleet disappeared into faster-than-light travel. Your doctor has given us hope, Admiral Grant, that is worth more than conquest. Perhaps we have been too quick to fear you. Perhaps we should learn from your example instead. The screen went dark. The bridge crew sat in stunned silence. Danny was the first to speak. Did that just happen? Did we just avoid a war because one scientist decided to give away our secrets? Lisa was already moving toward the door. Get me a shuttle to New Providence? I need to talk to Patricia in person. She found Patricia in her laboratory, surrounded by screens showing the continuing data transmission. The older woman looked tired but peaceful. You could be arrested for what you did, Lisa said. Releasing classified information to foreign powers during a military confrontation. Some people back on Earth are already calling for your head. Patricia smiled slightly. I became a scientist because I wanted to help people. All people, not just humans. The virus didn't ask what species you were before it killed you. Our kindness shouldn't have boundaries either. Lisa sat down across from her. Through the window, she could see the stars coming out as the sun set behind the laboratory dome. We got lucky, Lisa said finally. Our biology happened to be the right shape to survive. That's not something we earned. It's not proof that we're special or chosen or better than anyone else. No, Patricia agreed. But what we do with that luck is entirely up to us. In the months that followed, the data Patricia released transformed galactic medicine. Thaloxian scientists used human immune response techniques to help their mutated citizens heal. Allery researchers found ways to stabilize their flickering forms. The Viraxi began reconnecting their shattered hive minds using insights from human neurology. The Ascension movement didn't disappear, but had lost much of its energy. It was harder to argue for human superiority when human generosity was actively healing the wounds. The virus had left behind. Lisa retired from the military 2 years later. She moved back to Earth, to the house near the ocean, where her daughters lived. She spent her days watching the waves and thinking about choices. Humanity had survived something that should have destroyed them. They had emerged stronger, changed in ways nobody had expected. They had faced the temptation to use that strength for dominance, and some of them had given in to that temptation. But in the end, enough of them had chosen differently. They had chosen compassion over conquest, cooperation over control, the hard work of building trust over the easy satisfaction of revenge. Patricia was right, Lisa thought. The virus had been a test. But passing the test wasn't about survival. It was about what came after. It was about the choice to be worthy of their gifts. Humanity had made that choice, and the galaxy was better for it.